Hi everyone, this is part 2 of my presentation on storytelling, the essential beginning for developing the writer. In the previous session we were looking at using the 5-part structure and looking at giving children 5 sentences in order to be able to structure a little story. And if we want to create storytellers, story writers in children, we have to as teachers model that very regularly, both orally and having written it down. So you saw in part 1 me just modelling how you might do that, and we need to remember that once they've got once upon a time, one day unfortunately, then what we can do is start to build their repertoire of those sentences so they come up with a bank of opening sentence starters, a bank of build-up sentences and a bank of problem resolution and ending ones, woven together with our key conjunctions and but, so, because. So in this session I'm just going to move that on a little bit, and I'm going to model again another story that you might do, which is the 5-part story, but it's a bit of an extension because this time it starts with once upon a time there was. We then get early one morning, but this time the character visits 3 places and finally they go home. So you're just going to watch this little video of me doing that, just like I would with the children. Hello everyone, so let's start creating a little story together. And this is something that I do very regularly, particularly with young children, but also you'll find older children love it too. So let's start with a very familiar story opening of Once Upon a Time. So once upon a time there was, and at this point I'd invite the children to generate ideas of characters that we could have in our story. So once upon a time there was, and let's see what they say. So they might say once upon a time there was a dog, or a wizard, or a troll, or a witch, or a little girl, or a hero, a superhero. So if you're lucky enough to have a TA in your classroom, I would be getting them to bank up all of their ideas and create a character collection for us. If you don't, I'd be writing them up. But it's important to generate lots of ideas with the children so that when they come to do their own story, they can reference the character collection. If you find children struggle to generate ideas because they don't have a lot of background knowledge or haven't been exposed to a lot of stories, then bring out the small world, bring out the characters from the storybooks in school so they've got something to hang their ideas off. Because after all, imagination is just a manipulation of what they know. So if they don't know a lot, we've got to feed them so that they do. So let's take the idea of a troll. Once upon a time there was a troll called, and then I'd invite the children again to come up with names for the troll. So let's call him Bob for the sake of this. So once upon a time there was a troll called Bob who lived, and like with the characters, we're now just going to generate a load of settings that we could use. So where would our troll live? So they might say he lived under a bridge, he might live in a forest or a cave or a castle. So now we've got a collection of characters and we've got a collection of settings. So once upon a time there was a troll called Bob who lived. As the teacher, I'm now going to judge which one I want to use, and he's going to live in a deep, dark cave on the edge of an enchanted forest. Now early one morning, there's a key sentence starter, he woke up and decided to go for a walk. Now with the children, I'm going to try and think of 3 reasons why he might go for a walk. So again, invite the children to discuss this with you. Why would he be going for a walk? And things they might say is that he's hungry, that he's lost something, or that he wants to find a friend. He's a bit lonely. So let's go with that idea, that he's a bit lonely. So early one morning he woke up and decided to go for a walk because he was tired of feeling lonely and wanted to find some friends. So he walks and he walks and he walks, until eventually he comes to. Now we're going to think of 3 places he could come to. So 1, 2, 3. So eventually he comes to. So where could be the first place that he comes to? So we might now go back to our list of settings or add to our list of settings. Let's say he comes to a stinky swamp. He looks up and he looks down, but unfortunately, key story language, there was nobody to play with at the stinky swamp. So he decides to carry on looking. He walks and he walks and he walks until eventually he comes to. Now let's think of another place that he could come to. Let's say he comes to a bridge. So if he's looked up and down, maybe at this one, he looks side to side, but unfortunately, there was nobody to play with at the bridge. Still determined to find a friend, he decides to carry on looking. So he walks and he walks and he walks until eventually he comes to, now this place, I'm going to have some friends to play with. So once more, at this point, I would invite the children to say, where could he find some friends? And it's really nice when they say something like a school or a park. Great. Let's take school. And if I'm working in a school now, I would say, what could the school's name be? And often that they'll say their own school name, which is quite nice. So he walks and he walks and he walks until eventually he comes to Feather Lane School. So if we've looked up and down there, left and right there, at this one, let's have Bob looking round and round. And if you have prompted the children to think about the up and down, left and right, they'll probably come up with round and round. So he looks round and round, and to his amazement, he sees lots of children playing happily in the playground. Now, I'd ask the children, what would Bob say to the children? Remember, he wanted to find a friend. So often they'll come up with something like, can I play with you? Asked Bob. Yes, of course you can, said the friendly children. So for the rest of the day, Bob and the children played happily together. But, now we've got to get Bob home. As the sun began to set, Bob asked them, can I come back tomorrow, please? Yes, of course you can, replied the children. So with a huge smile on his face, Bob skips all the way home. There's his skippity little feet. All the way home, back to his deep dark cave on the edge of the magical forest, where he set his alarm clock for very early in the morning so he could get up bright and early and go and play with his new friends. Because from that day on, Bob was never lonely again. 4-leaf clover, our story is over. Now with the children, I would keep going over that story, inviting them to join in, but keep repeating that key language, that key story language that helps them structure it together. So once upon a time, there was a troll called Bob who lived in a deep dark cave next to a magical forest. Early one morning, he woke up and decided to go for a walk because he was tired of feeling lonely and wanted to find a friend. So he walks and he walks and he walks until he comes to a stinky swamp. He looks up and down, but unfortunately there was nobody to play with at the stinky swamp. So he decides to carry on looking. He walks and he walks and he walks until he comes to a bridge. He looks left and right, but unfortunately there is nobody to play with at the bridge. Still determined to find a friend, he carries on looking. He walks and he walks and he walks until he comes to a school, where he looks round and round. To his amazement, he sees lots of happy children playing in the playground. Can I play with you? Asked Bob. Yes, of course, said the children. So for the rest of the day, they play happily together. As the sun begins to set and Bob realises he needs to go home, he asks, please may I come back tomorrow? Yes, of course you can, said the friendly children. With a huge smile on his face, Bob skips and he skips and he skips all the way back to his deep dark cave on the edge of the magical forest, where he sets his alarm clock for very early so he can get up bright and early and play with his new friends, because from that day on, Bob was never lonely again. So as the teacher, you will decide how much you invite the children to contribute. I knew when starting this little video, I was going to think about what character could we have. So I'd take ideas from the children on the character, on the setting. But I knew that my character was going to visit 3 places. Whether they were going to visit those 3 places to find something to eat. So for example, they might find a slice of bread at one place, some jam in the next one, and another slice of bread to make his jam sandwich. Or he'd lost something, so he doesn't find it in the first place, doesn't find it in the next place, finds it in the third place. I knew I was going to have 3 settings that he visits, and at the 3rd setting, all is well, he gets what he wants, and then he goes all the way back home. So for me, I had an idea of the structure of the story before I started. Okay, so I hope that you found that useful, and you can take some of those things back to the classroom. Thank you.